to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Today's episode is about whether it's your calling to make money or to receive it. Now, there's a way to get clues about that, and it's through your natal chart. I have never gotten more traction on social media with anything I've talked about as I have this. So I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail about how you can figure this out. I started this podcast with an intention to teach you how to use non-traditional and unconventional pathways to success. And astrology is absolutely one of those things. Now, I'm still in the self-empowerment space, first and foremost, but astrology is now a strong component of my work. I have never seen anything help people the way astrology does. It's therapeutic. So I want to start by briefly explaining what a natal chart is for those of you who aren't familiar. If you aren't familiar, natal charts are like reading a foreign language. So your natal chart is a snapshot of what was taking place in the universe when you came out of the womb. And the energy you were born with absolutely impacts you. If you think it doesn't, it does. You've got to pay attention and use the energy instead of letting it use you, okay? Now, awareness is the foundation of all change, and astrology gives you data that makes you aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. That's the gift of astrology. Your natal chart is a chart of becoming. You're supposed to evolve, and the only way you evolve is through learning the lessons that you came here to learn. Well, what if you can't figure out those lessons? That's the case with a lot of people, and that's why the same problems and patterns keep just getting in their face. And astrology is a weapon, and I hope I can teach you how to use it. When you see your natal chart, you'll see numbers 1 through 12 around the wheel. Those represent the 12 astrological houses. Those houses represent different aspects of life. Within those houses, there are planets and there are zodiac signs. The planets are energy. The signs are how the energy expresses itself. And the houses, well, that's where it all shows up in your life. Now, some natal charts have empty houses. All that means is that there aren't any planets in those houses. That doesn't mean there isn't any action there. That means that isn't where your work is. The planets show you what you need to focus on in this lifetime. And if you fail to focus on those areas, then you probably won't evolve. Therefore, you probably won't be happy. We're here to evolve. We're here to grow and change. Everyone has a different journey, a different purpose, and different lessons to learn. Before you judge someone or compare yourself to someone, hold that in your awareness. Your life journey is unlike anyone else's. And if you were dealt a bad hand, well, there's a reason for that. You overcome that struggle, and I guarantee there are major, major rewards for you. The ball is in your court, no matter what hand you were dealt, because you have free will, and free will can override anything in your natal chart. Now, I want to show you how your natal chart can give you guidance on a very specific life lesson. Are you here to make the money, or are you here to receive it? Because both of those paths are real, and both of those lessons are challenging. Making money can be hard, but receiving, trusting someone enough to provide for you, can be even harder. And society doesn't make that easy. We're conditioned from a very young age to believe, we got to work hard. We got to make our own way. Don't depend on anyone. Dependence is weakness. And if you don't make your way, you're judged. You're labeled. So, frankly, I don't care who makes their own way and who doesn't. I don't give a damn, because I'm concerned about myself and the people I care about, and that's it. I don't care where your money came from. Don't care. But what if part of your life journey is to learn how to trust enough to allow someone else to provide resources for you? And I want you to just hear me out for a minute. Again, you have 12 houses in a natal chart. Each house represents a different area of your life. Today, I'm focusing on 2 houses, although other houses will be brought into the conversation. The main 2 are the 2nd house and the 8th house. If you want to understand the basics of a natal chart, go back and listen to my podcast episode. The name of it was Astrology and Human Behavior, and it aired on October 21st, 2025, okay? So the 2nd house, it represents the money you make, your personal income, the assets you accumulate. It also represents your self-worth. It's the natural house of Taurus, and Taurus is all about stability, security, okay? Feeling secure and stable. The 8th house represents your relationship with other people's money, shared resources, support, what comes through others. And the 8th house also represents chaos and crises and endings, but not necessarily in the literal sense. Like this house represents things like mortgage payments, car payments, rental agreements, contracts, wills, inheritances, etc. So if you finance a car and you pay car payments for 5 years, when that time is up, the car is paid for, hopefully, and the agreement ends. All right. So that's an 8th house ending, just giving you an example to demonstrate what an 8th house ending might look like. Now, there are 10 planets in a natal chart, but I'm not going to be talking about all of them today, only the ones that are relevant to this conversation. And Jupiter is one of the planets I'll be talking about. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, blessings, luck, and opportunity. Wherever Jupiter is in your chart, that's where your blessings are, unless it's in the 1st. My Jupiter is in my 1st house, and when people have that placement, they tend to struggle with their weight, and they struggle with saying too much, talking too much gets them into trouble. Jupiter in the 1st can place someone in lucrative positions, so it's not all bad, but just letting you know that Jupiter in the 1st can be part of a karmic life lesson. And once I became aware of what my Jupiter placement meant, some of the struggles during my lifetime made more sense, and I was able to solve those 2 problems. Now, wherever Jupiter is in your chart, that's where things tend to grow. That's where your opportunities are. So let's talk about what happens when Jupiter is in the 2nd house. So that's a sign of wealth. When I see Jupiter in somebody's 2nd house, then I know that they are positioned for wealth. But you've got to make the money. When Jupiter's in that 2nd house, then you're making the money. On social media, I did a video about this, and I used Donald Trump and Elon Musk's natal charts as examples. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see pictures of their charts, okay? Now, both of these men have Jupiter in the 2nd house. So they're perfect examples because they're both very wealthy and everybody knows who they are, okay? Now, this is the house of money that you make, the house of assets you accumulate, the house of personal resources. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So when it sits in the 2nd house, it expands your ability to generate money, build wealth, and create financial opportunity. Now, this doesn't mean you automatically become wealthy, but it does mean you have a natural advantage when it comes to money and opportunities to make money. Now, let's look at the other side of this. What if your 2nd house is blank? A blank 2nd house can indicate that making money is not your primary life lesson. That doesn't mean you can't make money. It means it may not be your calling. It may not be the lesson that you're here to master. Instead, your lesson may live in that 8th house. If your 2nd house is empty, look at the corresponding 8th house. Do you have placements in the 8th house? If you do, that's an indicator that you're here to learn to receive and trust someone enough to provide resources for you. That's a tough lesson. frankly, I think it's a tougher lesson than to make the money and be financially self-reliant. I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorns, they want to control what they can. And being financially self-reliant is something that you can control. You surrender enough to trust somebody enough to provide resources for you. That is a tough freaking lesson. And I speak from experience. My second house is blank, but I have planets in the eighth. I have Mars and Neptune in Sagittarius in the eighth house. And I'm telling you right now that the biggest internal struggle I ever experienced was when I surrendered and trusted my husband enough to carry the financial load while I built my business. I almost did not pursue my passion because of my trust issues with vulnerability when it comes to material assets. One of my life lessons is not to associate my self-worth with money. Moreover, don't associate receiving love with money at all. Those are two separate things. I get that now. I've learned the lesson, okay? Now, on social media, I used Priscilla Presley as an example, and she is a great example, okay? Her second house is empty, but she has Jupiter in the eighth house, the house of other people's money. Her financial life has been deeply tied to shared resources, most notably through Elvis Presley. That's the energy that she's working with in this lifetime. You can judge it, agree with it, disagree with it. That's not the point. The point is the pattern. The chart reflects the lesson. Now, don't get confused here. Jupiter is not necessarily associated with the husband in her chart. It is, though, because her wealth came solely from her husband. All of it, okay? And where did his money come from? Well, he earned it through his fans. That's other people's money, okay? That wealth shot directly across her chart into her second house of assets and wealth, okay? Now, let me bring this even closer to home. I just told you, my second house is blank, and it may not be my calling to learn financial self-reliance. But I love to work. Like, I cannot imagine not working, but I have to do the work that I love or I am miserable. So part of my journey has been learning to trust someone enough to provide resources so that I can do what I love. Now, if you look deeper into my chart, you'll see I'm also positioned for success. I have Capricorn on my midheaven and in my 10th house of career. And I'm a Capricorn. I mean, we're known for being driven and successful. Saturn rules Capricorn, and that's the planet of manifestation. I mean, shit, a Capricorn, if nobody else will do it, a Capricorn's going to make it happen. The Capricorn's going to do it, okay? Now, us Saturn-ruled people earn rewards through doing the work we're supposed to do. Saturn is the toughest fucking planet, and I'm telling you, that energy will make or break you. And if I hadn't trusted my husband enough to provide resources while I built my business, I would be working for nothing but money. And I guarantee I would not be in good health. I also have Mercury in my 10th house, the planet of communication, which means I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. But I would not be here. I would not be doing it if I hadn't learned how to trust, if I hadn't learned how to receive. And here's another layer to this. I also have what's called a talent triangle in my chart, a Saturn, Mars, Pluto configuration, 2 sextiles, and a trine. What that tells me is that I have a natural ability to take on hard, transformative work, and it energizes me. I can build a business centered around transformation with my hands tied behind my back. That part isn't a struggle for me. The struggle? Trusting someone enough to carry the load while I build it. And back in 2021, when I started my business, I almost didn't do it because the thought of not making money for a period of time, it's like I couldn't I couldn't wrap my head around it, and it took a lot for me to surrender. But once I understood that surrendering to the process was actually part of my life lesson, everything started to, make more sense. And I'm sharing this with you because everyone's path is different. Everyone has a different calling. So before you jump to conclusions about someone and judge them or compare yourself to them, just pause and consider what I just said. Astrology is one of the most powerful self-help tools I have ever used because it gives you data. It gives you an inside look into yourself and into other people. And when you can shift out of judgment and into curiosity, well, you raise your frequency into something more compassionate, more expansive, and honestly, more exciting. So don't stop at the second house or the eighth house. You always have to look at the full chart. But there are many indicators of financial success. And what I just talked about are a couple of major indicators. I'm telling you, if your second house is blank, making money, doing it all on your own, carrying everything by yourself, probably isn't your primary lesson. And you've probably heard the phrase, God works in mysterious ways. This is one of them. I worked with a client just yesterday, and their natal chart was so crystal clear. Like there was a looping theme about learning to love themselves. And once they learn to love themselves, then the money will flow. This person had their part of fortune in the second house. Now, the part of fortune is not a planet. It's an Arabic part that looks like a circle with an X in the middle. And it shows where abundance flows. And her part of fortune sat right beside a Saturn. Now, whatever house that Saturn is in, represents your responsibility during this lifetime. And this person's north node was in that second house too. And that shows what you're supposed to be moving toward in this lifetime. Now, in their eighth house, their south node was there, which represents what you're supposed to move away from. It was crystal clear. I talked to this person and found out they had been in chaotic situations throughout their lifetime, coping and struggling with other people's money. And this person is positioned for massive wealth. But before they activate that part of fortune, they have to value themselves. Their life lesson was to learn that their self-worth was not based on how much money they have. They have to learn to love themselves first, and then the money will flow. But they got to make it, okay? They got to make that money. So I'm telling you right now, if you're here to learn financial self-reliance, being in a dependent relationship where you rely on someone else for resources will never work out for you. And I bet deep down you will know that. Now, because that lesson, okay, it'll keep getting in your face. It'll keep coming back. Either the person will control you through dangling those assets, or you just flat out won't be happy, okay? Don't sell your soul. There's enough money for everyone, and it's one of the easiest things to manifest, and I just gave you the key to how to manifest it, okay? So, I appreciate you watching. If you want me to do your natal chart, email me, paula@paulaswope.com. I'm an astrology student, so my readings are heavily discounted at this point, but I don't tell you anything unless I'm 100% confident about it. I also use Sirius software, which is what the expert astrologers use. It's the top of the line, it's the best, and it's highly accurate. So I'll close out here, but like, subscribe, leave a comment, give us 5 stars. It all helps me achieve my calling, and I'll see you next week.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob podcast with Paula Swope.